How's it going, fam? Welcome back to Erica's EDC. Long time no see, huh? I haven't seen you guys in a while. We're talking about knives today. Look at the teeners on this one. I'm sorry that I've been kind of MIA lately. Life has been very busy, and because YouTube is not a job for me, I'm not paid, I'm not monetized or anything. If life needs me, YouTube kind of gets put on the back burner for a hot second because I don't really get anything from it other than enjoyment, which is, you know, I think that makes sense. But guys, today we're going to talk about a whole bunch of folding knives and questions that I get about these guys in here. This is my whole collection of folding knives, not too many, aside from this last one right here, but those are all of, you know, all of the ones that I own, and I get a lot of comparison questions, a lot of questions about like Sebenzas, you know, the MagnaCut versus the S45, is it worth it? So we're just going to kind of answer some of those commonly asked questions today, and I also have a couple of new things that came in. Quick preview. Ooh, ah, okay. So we'll look at those at the very end, but let's go over some frequently asked questions, okay? Also, the hair is crazy per usual. It has grown out and now it's unruly, and I just wet it and now it's all cuckoo, so I apologize. Okay, let's do the Chris Reeve one first because that's something I get asked constantly. I have videos on this, but in case you haven't seen them, basically the Sebenza 31, the large and the small, were run in S45 VN blade steel for a hot second, but then we had MagnaCut come out and they quickly switched over to MagnaCut, which is superior. It is not hype, it is just truth. But people still ask, is it worth getting the MagnaCut over the S45? Is there that big of a difference? Yes, I cannot emphasize enough how different these two knives are. Even though they are the exact same model, everything is the same aside from, you know, the finish on the blade here, but they're the same Sebenza 31. Nothing is different about the grind or anything. The MagnaCut is incredible. You have to remember that CRK is running the MagnaCut at 63 to 64 HRC, which is pretty high. Probably some of the highest run MagnaCut you'll find on the market in terms of like production knives. It is so superior to the S45, and I've mentioned this in many previous videos, but the issue with S35 VN and S45 VN, in my opinion, is that they're steels that tend to glass out. If you put an edge on them any higher than 600 grit, they're sharp, but they tend to get less toothy, right? They glass out, they feel kind of like a smooth, sharp edge. And the issue with that is that if you're looking for like just an all-around work EDC knife, you kind of want to have that tooth and that grit to bite through material like cardboard and rope and zip ties without it slipping, okay? So if you don't have that toothiness, when you do cut certain materials, you'll feel the edge kind of slip as opposed to grab it. So I love S45 VN. It's a great steel, but if you compare it to MagnaCut at 63 to 64 HRC, this blows it out of the water. The S45 VN was also only run at like 59 to 60, I believe. So you're really getting a ton of edge retention out of that MagnaCut compared to the S45. Also, what I've noticed through my thorough testing, which all of this is recorded and on videos that you can watch, ever since they made the MagnaCut Sebenzas, I haven't had to lay this edge back and take the convex off of it. So when you get a Chris Reeve knife from the factory, no matter what steel it's in, they put a convexed 18 to 20 DPS edge on it, degrees per side. So, you know, each bevel is 18 to 20 degrees, but it is a convex edge, which means that instead of it being perfectly flat on each side like this, it's a little bit curved like that on each side. It's convexed. That provides immense edge stability, but it does reduce the edge retention a little bit just because you're cutting with an edge that's a little curved like that. Not a big deal, but I've said over and over, the best way to get great edge retention out of these Sebenzas, whether they were in the S35 or S45, was to remove that convex edge and lay the edge back to 15 degrees per side as opposed to 18 or 20. And what happens is when you bring that bevel back and it's way wider, you're really thinning that edge out, and you're providing way more edge retention with what you've got. But what I have noticed with this MagnaCut is that isn't as much of a necessity as with the S35VN and S45VN. I haven't really felt the need to do that. I did have a Chris Reeve small Sebenza 31 in MagnaCut with the wood inlays, and I did lay the edge back to 15 DPS and put a really nice toothy edge on it. But I have left this with the factory convex edge so far, and it is not really falling too short to the other MagnaCut Sebenza that I modified. This is doing incredibly well. The edge retention is great, so I'm not seeing a massive difference between the convex edge and the 15 DPS edge, because the MagnaCut this is kind of where like the steel is really shining through, especially because it's at 63 to 64. That edge retention is amazing. This will obviously perform like incredibly well if you do lay that edge back and take that convex off, but if you don't know how to do that, or if you just don't want to, it's not as necessary to get the knife to work as opposed to these older ones in the other steel. I hope that all makes sense. Another question I get, because I have always raved about the Benchmade Bug Out, is it worth it? This day and age, with the price point of like $180 starting, no, it's not worth it. And I really hate to say that, but it's just such an inflated price. I cannot even justify it. I love my Benchmade Bug Out. It's one of my favorite knives of all time, but it's not worth $180. It's a plastic knife that weighs 1.8 ounces. I have no idea how you can squeeze $180 out of this thing. There's just no way. On top of the fact that a lot of the Benchmade blades, especially in like the S30V on the base model, they can come pretty burnt. They can come pretty fatigued. These are mass production blades that are done in huge batches, and it's inevitable that some of them are going to be botched, some edges are going to be burnt and chippy, some of them are going to be fatigued, some of them are just going to be crap. And for $180, I just don't see how you can justify that. So it is unfortunate. I love this knife, but in my opinion, it's not worth buying, because we have options that are extremely comparable from Spyderco for equal or lesser prices, and you're getting an all-around better knife. So I have a couple of knives here that I would compare to the Bug Out. First off, we have the Spyderco Delica 4. This one is in K390. This is one of my best performing knives of all time. There are reviews and test footage of all of these knives if you go onto my like testing footage playlist and review playlist, but Delica 4, definitely a runner-up to the Bug Out. We also have my absolutely beloved Spyderco Native 5 Lightweight. And the reason these are all FRN models is because I'm comparing them to this Grivory Bug Out, which is, you know, that same type of plastic material. This knife is incredible. Again, comparable, lightweight, FRN, really nice. And lastly, the Spyderco Sage 5 Lightweight. Okay, another comparable one. Now, depending on how picky you are about locking mechanisms and stuff that'll kind of decipher which one of these you want. Of course, there are other ones too, but these are just the ones I have in my collection. These are all around the same price point depending on the steel. Obviously, this Maximate one is going to be the most expensive, and it's going to be, I believe, maybe a little more expensive than the Bug Out. But if you get like a Spy 27 one, it'll be cheaper. If you get like an S45 VN, if they have that, that would be cheaper. But basically, these are either around the same price range, maybe a little lower. You're getting a way better heat treat though. Even though these are all production run knives, Spyderco really kind of, I don't know, their focus is steel quality and heat treat. Like, they pump out an immense amount of knives just like Benchmade, but their focus on heat treat is really at the forefront of their mind. So generally speaking, it's way harder to get a botched Spyderco blade as opposed to a botched Benchmade blade. And unfortunately, as you move up the tier of steels with Benchmade, moving into like the M390 type deal, or even their 3V, it's extremely unreliable from my experience and from my interactions, I guess. Even their M4. You know, the more exotic Benchmade goes with their steel, quite frankly, the worse it is. I actually like their S30V the most out of all of their steels, and that's just from my experience. However, with Spyderco, it's the complete opposite. The more exotic you get with their offerings, as you move into super steels that they do, the better they get. Like Spyderco K390 from Seki City, Japan, is literally one of my favorite steels of all time. Obviously, K390 is a Böhler steel, so it all comes from Austria, but what I'm saying is they make knives with K390 in Golden, Colorado, USA, and they make them as well in Seki City, Japan. And from my testing and use, which again I have videos on, specifically the Seki City, Japan made K390 knives blow the ones out of the water that are made in the States. Don't know why, it's just what I experienced. Maybe things have changed since I did that video. But their K390 is absolutely phenomenal. Their Maximate, again, they tweaked some things about it a few years ago. This is incredible now. And even their S30V is really, really good. I mean, I did a whole month of testing with this knife right here in S30V, and it did insanely well. I think we had maybe one bout of chipping, and that was through something I was doing, but their S30V is really, really good. But these are all knives that are lightweight, great for shorts in the summertime, FRN scales, and you can kind of just pick and choose what type of locking mechanism you want, because you have the compression lock, you can do a back lock, you can kind of pick and choose what you want. And quite frankly, at least from my experience, the Omega springs are probably less reliable than even a compression lock. Like the springs, I hear people talking about it all the time, how the springs break. Knock on wood, I only have twigs. Knock on wood. I've never broken an Omega spring, but it's just kind of facts that like a liner is not going to break most likely with general use, whereas general use with an Omega spring, it can actually still break. So really finicky locking mechanism here. When it works, it works. When it doesn't, you're fucked. Whereas this liner right here, there's just no way that's gonna snap. It's just not. And then even more so with security on the back lock. So, you know, is this as fidgety as an Axis lock? No. But if you get maybe something like this with the compression lock, you can definitely fidget this around. I am highly against that, but I know a lot of you aren't. So yeah, there's some, you know, some options for you if you really wanted the Bug Out and this was your final push to not buy it because of the price. Spyderco does a lot of very closely related knives that excel over the Bug Out. They're just more reliable. I don't have one currently, but I have plenty of footage on the Spyderco Para 3 lightweight. I also love that knife. It comes in a whole bunch of different flavors of steel. I had the Spy 27 one. I had another one too. I've had a whole bunch of them. I've tested them. I've reviewed them. They're fantastic. I don't have one right now, but again, another option of a very lightweight FRN EDC knife that you can carry. And it's literally the same thing as this, but just with the FRN scales, okay? I guess I should actually show the stock one. This one's a skinny. The Spyderco Para 3 lightweight is the same exact thing as this, but with FRN scales. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, what else? We did have an Emerson Mini A100 drop a couple weeks ago that people hopped on, and people have still been asking me, is it worth getting one? That's totally up to you. The price is highly inflated, but again, this is one of my favorite knives of all time, the Emerson Mini A100. It's a beast of a knife. If you don't like kind of garage-made feeling knives, maybe don't get one. They're very homemade feeling, I guess. It's just, you know, it's Ernest doing it in his shop with his family and his people, still, just like it started. The liners don't completely match up with the G10. They typically kind of ride over like this, okay? They still have the Nylotron washers. They still have the same liner, I don't know. I love this knife. I really, truly do. And it's one of those knives that I think if you actually use your knives, it's really cool to experience. The price is pretty out there, but if you're willing to do it, I still would. I really wish that he would change the steel, because he does them in 154 cm and it's like 57 to 59 HRC, which, you know, that's like a pet peeve of mine, but I don't know, man. It's just one of those knives that I really enjoy having in my collection. If you like beading on your knives, if you view them as multi-tools when they're this overbuilt, it's still one of my favorites, and I will always have one in the collection if you want to try one. What else? Benchmade 940. Another question. Do you still love the 940? And the reason people are asking about all of these things is because my channel has really evolved, you know, from when I started it. I was in a blue collar field when I first started the channel, and I was using a lot of knives like this, where I was using them kind of as multi-tools, and I praised these, and I still do, but now I'm kind of on the other end of the spectrum, experiencing super steels, high hardness, you know, very, very thin BTE, custom heat treat and stuff like that. That's kind of where we're moving right now with the channel. But that doesn't mean that I can't appreciate these multi-tool knives that I have raved about and used and abused over the years. They're just different from what I'm doing right now. If you are in a blue collar field, again, where you just beat the crap out of your knives, these are still two of my most recommended EDC knives. More so multi-tools like sharpened pry bars, but I still love them, even though they're, you know, low HRC, way overbuilt, super thick blade stock. I'm not gonna grab these to do infinite cardboard cutting, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna grab these if I want to play around with them and use them as a screwdriver and a pry bar and stuff. I have so much footage of doing that kind of stuff with these knives. They still have their place. They're just not, I don't have a blue collar job right now, so I'm not, you know, carrying those every day, but I still love them. Oh, what else? Oh, this is one that I've been getting a lot recently, and I'm not entirely sure why. There must have been like a drop or something, I'm not sure, because I keep getting so many questions. Which would you choose, the Chris Reeve Small Inkosi that has a dog hair stuck in it, or the Chris Reeve Small Sebenza 31? I've said this time and time, I will say it again. The 31. I am not a fan of knives that tell me where to put my hands or my fingers. And that's what the Inkosi does. It has these finger cutouts here, which for me are very comfortable, but you know, what are the odds that your hand is going to fit this knife? It could be pretty slim. I have pretty small hands. Like for a girl, they're big, but compared to my audience, which is 99% men, I have peanut hands. This is a very tiny knife. It fits my hands perfectly. It feels like it was made for my hand. But if your hand is not the same size, I mean, that's really telling you where to put your fingers, and I'm not a big fan of that. So I always recommend the 31. I would love this knife so much more if they got rid of the grooves. I just don't see the reason for them. I wicked wish this had like a Sebenza body, but the internals of the Nkosi, because it's really impressive. Everything being so oversized and so insanely strong, I love that. I really wish it just didn't have the thumb grooves, or not the thumb grooves, the finger grooves. So I will continuously say 31. Like, I almost want to say don't even bother looking at an Nkosi, because if your hand doesn't fit that, you're screwed. And I see so many of these being sold all the time. On the secondary, I see people buying them, saying that they want to love it, but they just can't. So I really, as cool as it is, the concept of the internals, everything is so impressive about it. The quality is the same, but I don't think you're gonna like the finger grooves, okay? So highly recommend the 31 over the Nkosi, regardless of the size. And yes, I have had all of them. I've had large Sebenzas, I've had large Nkosis. I got rid of them instantly. I gifted them because I just couldn't do it. So right here, 31 Magna Cut, you cannot get better than that. Holy crap, we're 21 minutes into this. We didn't even cover everything I wanted. Those are probably the most asked questions, so I guess we'll move on to some of the new things that I got and then shut this down. New Zippo. This had a Richter Knives logo on it, and I carried this for like half of one day and it came off. I guess it was just like a sticker as opposed to being engraved on there or whatever, so it did come off and I'm really bummed about that, but it's a beautiful lighter. I want to get the Teiners on it. Very cool. I'll have to get one of those inserts because the butane, no, I want the butane. The lighter fluid always evaporates before I even get to use this thing. So I'll have to get one of those. I think it's called Thunderbird inserts. A flashlight that was donated to the channel by the one and only Jessie. This is a CWF Peanut. This is a beast of a flashlight. I mean, it's tiny, but it's so thick. Like, if I were to guess, it's got to be about as thick as your mom. Yeah, it definitely is. So that's pretty thick. It's you know, made in the USA. All of the parts are made by this one dude. This is a very expensive flashlight, like $325 type expensive. I would never ever spend that money on a flashlight, but it ain't my money, so he bought it. Very cool. Has a whole bunch of stuff on it. Nikki just got home and you're gonna hear her. Very cool flashlight. Yeah, just crazy freaking expensive. And then lastly, we have this slip here from Richter Knives. This is a beautiful little slip, and I really like the color on this one. Come on in. I already said that you're here. She always does this. She's gonna come into the video. Come on in. Nikki's picking up Jasmine for a vet appointment. Look who's here! There's a secret little surprise from Nikki.
I didn't say my name this time.
Who are you?
I'm Nikki.
I'm actually finishing this up. I was just showing my very last thing, this Richter slip, which you said you like the color of this too.
Oh, I really like the color.
It's like a really old school. It reminds me of like cowboys. Made in Texas. Really, really nice. He's doing a drop soon, so yeah, very cool little slip. And I have my little dog leg in there. This is like a completely old school carry. Dogleg Jack from GEC, love it. What do you have? Don't tell me you don't have a carry right now.
I don't have one, it's in the car.
Well, you're fired. You really have nothing on you?
No.
Other than a watch?
No, it's in the car.
That's messed up. That's messed up.
Watch.
Yeah, show them that. That's That's freaking gorgeous.
I'm not at the right angle to show them.
It's a G-Shock. G-Shock something. What is it?
Ah.
It's just a G-Shock. It's fancy. Look at how fancy.
It's cute.
I like that. Wow, you're covered in hair. Oh no, this is one of my biggest pet peeves. See, I told you guys I have OCD, but you haven't seen it in full motion yet. Do you want to tell them about how you're doing while I pick all these hairs off like a little monkey? How's your day going?
Good.
That's never a good sign.
No,
Okay.
it's good. It's good. I'm just getting ready to go
Bring Jasmine.
hurt my dog.
She has a boo-boo leg. She's been limping around a lot, so we're trying to figure out what's wrong with her.
The vet said I have to exercise her before we go so that she's actually limping when we get there.
Big sad. And what were you carrying today?
I had my Chris Reeves Sebenza.
We were just talking about that. She has the wood inlay Magna Cut one right now because she felt left out and really needed one, so I gave it to her.
Yeah, because it's pretty.
Yeah.
And then I also have a Sodbuster Junior at work that I use every day.
Of course, gotta love the Saudis.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have anything to say to the beautiful people before you go?
I don't think so. I hope you're all having a wonderful day.
I hope that you guys are having a good day too. I think that's it. We're almost a half hour into this dang thing, so I will see you guys.
You mentioned this thing?
I did talk about that.
Ooh, do you know what this reminds me of? I'm just gonna say,
Okay, sorry.
Do you know what this reminds me of? You know those,
A chode.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, you do.
Oh! Ew.
That's what it is.
Ew.
Okay.
No, it reminds me of one of those memory things that people put memories inside and then they, like, put the lid on and then they bury it in the ground.
Like a bottle?
Yeah, no.
Oh, a time capsule.
Yeah,
a
yeah,
time
there you
capsule.
go.
That's what it is.
Wow. Brain isn't working today.
No, it's not. Mine isn't either.
It reminds me of a time capsule. It's really freaking ugly. Like, let's be real. Who's going to carry that around?
Me!
Of course.
I like it.
But just, like,
I think it's
come
cool.
on.
Okay, forget. You know what? We're turning this off now. All she does is come on here and shit on all of my gear. Guys, we will see you on the next video. I need to use your shit. Ooh, you hold that one.
This still needs to be cleaned.
Stop. Go use your shit.
Learn
how to sharpen your knives. And we will see you on the next video. We love you so much, fam. Take care.